The topic is converting equations from rectangular to spherical. So let's do this example. Convert the rectangular equation x squared plus y squared minus z squared equals 0 to spherical form. I'd use different ways of doing this, so let me show you just a couple of methods, or maybe even 3 different methods. Alright, so again, first thing you want to do, you want to have only rows, phi's, and thetas. That's what we mean with spherical. So we're going to replace x by rho sine phi cosine theta. So rho sine phi cosine theta, but because if it's squared, so we gotta square that, plus we replace y by rho sine phi sine theta, but because it's squared, we gotta square that also, minus we replace z by, something is weird here, this is a z equal rho cosine phi. So this will be rho cosine of phi, but it's squared, and that should be equal to 0. Now again, by looking at these, I see sine squared and cosine squared, so I can factor rho squared sine squared phi, and that's going to give me cosine squared of theta sine squared of theta minus rho squared cosine squared of phi is 0. Alright, what else? Now I know this is equal 1, so that's going to give me rho squared sine squared phi minus rho squared cosine squared of phi is 0. Now I can divide by rho squared. Of course, I'm assuming rho is not equal 0. We can always add that. So we know rho is positive. So assume it's not equal 0. So this gives me, and then we can add it. You'll see it's going to be in the graph anyway. Rho equals 0 is considered just the point. This is rho equals 0. Just this point, the center. 0, 0, 0. So sphere with radius 0. So sine square, I'm dividing by rho square, so sine square phi minus cosine square phi is 0. Now factor this. It's going to be sine phi minus cosine phi, factor sine phi plus cosine phi is 0. That means this is equal to 0, or this is equal to 0, which means sine phi is equal cosine phi, or sine phi is equal minus cosine phi. Divide by cosine phi, you get tangent phi equal 1, or same thing, divide by cosine of phi, you get tangent of phi equal -1. But don't forget, we know phi is between 0 and pi. So let's use some trick stuff here. So tangent positive means first quadrant. Of course it can be the third, but we know it's either, phi is either in the first quadrant or second quadrant. It's between 0 and pi. So if it's in the first quadrant, this is what we mean with phi. It's equal 1 over 1, let's call this -1 over 1. So this is, tangent is kind of like the slope of this line. 1 over 1. We know this is going to be square root of 2. Therefore, phi is equal to pi over 4, right? That triangle. Now tangent is negative, means it's in the second quadrant. This is what we mean with phi. -1 over 1, we know this has to be positive 1, so this is negative 1, this is square root of 2. I know that this angle is pi over 4, so phi will be equal to pi over 2 plus pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 4. So my phi is 3 pi over 4. So the equation is actually phi equal pi over 4 or phi equal 3 pi over 4. So how do we graph phi equal 3 pi? Well, let's start with pi over 4. So this is what we mean, pi over 4, right? Phi equal pi over 4, that's the phi. But we know that theta is not, theta can go from 0 to 2 pi, so theta can go, so if you do that, you'll get this cone. So this is the cone, phi equal pi over 4. Now what about phi equal 3 pi over 4? Let's come here, 3 pi over 4 will be, right? This is what we mean with phi equal 3 pi over 4. It's bigger than pi over 2. Remember, this is phi equal pi over 2. This is phi equal 0, right? Phi equal 0. So again, I'm going to let my theta goes from 0 to 2 pi. So what I get another cone. So this is phi equal 3 pi over 4. But remember, or means the union. So actually, to graph this function, you're going to get double cone. And this is what I mean with rho equals 0, we're going to get this point. So it's already included in our equation. Right? So the answer is phi equal pi over 4 or phi equal 3 pi over 4. I mean, here's another method. Let me show you second method. You get the same answer. Second method, we have x squared plus y squared minus z squared equals 0. So what I'll do, I move minus z squared to the other side. So that would be x squared plus y squared equal z squared. Now what I do is I'm going to add z squared to both sides. So the right side will be 2z squared, but left side will be just rho squared. Now what else? Now you can say rho squared equal 2. I know my z is right here. Z is equal rho cosine of phi. So that would be 2 cosine of phi. I mean rho. And then you need to square everything. Now, same thing, divide by rho squared. You get 2 cosine square of phi equal 1. Right? All I'm doing is divide both sides by rho squared. Now this means that cosine square of phi is equal 1/2, which means cosine of phi is equal minus or plus. Now remember, now phi is between 0 and pi. Cosine can be negative. Sine is always positive, but the cosine can be negative. So this will be 1 over square root of 2. So how do we do that? Again, we're going to use some trick to find the angles. Now, when the cosine is positive, this is our phi. So cosine will be 1 over square root of 2. Now when the cosine is negative, this is my phi, and I know it's negative 1 over square root of 2, and this is 1. So this angle by itself is pi over 4, but the phi goes from here to here. So phi again is equal to 3 pi over 4 here, or phi will be equal pi over 4, right? But of course, by the way, you could have seen this. So again, here, if I look at this equation, z squared equal x squared plus y squared. If we solve for z, what are you gonna get? Minus or plus square root. So you get z equals square root of x squared plus y squared, or z equal minus square root of x squared plus y squared. So again, this will be z equal square root of x squared plus y squared, right, the cone, and the minus means upside down. This part is actually z equal minus square root of x squared plus y squared. And that's it for this example. Even though you could have also here, you could have got the same answer from, you could have replaced sine squared by 1 minus cosine squared of phi minus cosine squared of phi equals 0, and this will give you cosine squared of phi equal 1/2, and the same way. Alright, that's it for this example.